Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so pleased to have on award-winning ukulele artist, and he's also a composer. He does it all, and he merges all these styles into so many different types of music. Jake Shimabukuro. Jake, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Eric. Great to see you. Thank you so much.
You're such a creative force of nature, Jake, and I was thinking about it as I was getting ready to interview you today, that I don't know of many people that have done so much for the ukulele as you have to bring it to the forefront, doing with popular music and everything, and with your brand new album, Grateful. How do you feel about this now?
Oh, no, thank you, man. It's I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. So, the ukulele is such a big part of the culture there. My mom played, she was my first teacher. But now to just be able to have, to have these opportunities to travel to different parts of the world and to see how the ukulele has impacted, all these different places, these countries, communities, it just blows my mind. And I think of it kind of like surfing, because surfing was invented in Hawaii as well. And,
Right.
and you just see how it has impacted the world. So, yeah, so to see what the ukulele is doing for people everywhere, it's just wonderful.
Well, and I think it's so powerful the way you approach it. And we were talking about, some of your contemporaries and everything and other music artists, but you're so high energy and it's so much fun. And even the, with this new album, Grateful, I was listening to it and 22 tracks, and you have so many collaborators, and you've got some cover songs, but also just it to me, Jake, it felt like a meditation. It felt like you were really showing your heart in this album. And I think you've done that in all your works, but what was the different direction with Grateful, and how did you come up with all these guests to have on it?
Well, yeah, this was a very personal project for me, because it features a lot of, it features all Hawaii-based musicians. So,
Right.
All the people that I collaborated with on this album, these were my mentors, my heroes. When I was growing up in Hawaii, I mean, these are the musicians that really took me under their wing and people that I just looked up to and admired. People like Henry Kapono, Brother Nolan, Kavika Kahiapo, all of these wonderful musicians that, they're so gifted, and whenever they play, they play with so much aloha. There's this energy, you talk about the energy, and there's just something unique, to the music that, to what they bring to the music. And so I'm glad that you mentioned it. It was almost like a meditation, because for me, it was like, I mean, that's what it was for me. It was like going back into time, and just reliving my childhood, and it was such an honor really to be in the studio, with these legends, that I grew up with.
Well, and I think what's incredible, Jake, too, is with your artistry, that with the music and everything else, that you are shining a light on these incredible artists that many people may not be aware of, that you were raised with. You're bringing them in studio, and it just fits seamlessly with these songs. And so I would listen to a song, then I had to go back and listen to it again, because and once again, even on the different tonalities that you achieve with the ukulele during it, it's not like a one-trick pony. You're certainly highlighting different tonalities throughout the entire album. And I mean, 22 songs. I mean, this is not one of those things like, oh, I'm just going to listen to the hits that Jake has on Grateful. I think once again, it's one of those, to me, that needs to be on vinyl, and that, people add the entire album to their playlist, because it's just, there's so much meat there. It's just so incredible.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it wasn't, the plan wasn't to do that many tracks, but, we started out just, asking a couple of musicians, and, and we just kept asking, and, people were coming in, and we were just, we were just kind of in it. And then one day we stopped and realized, oh my goodness, we got like over 15 tracks already. And so like, well, let's keep going. I mean, honestly, Eric, if we didn't have if there was no, time constraint, I don't know, this would be like a 7-8 album.
That's what I wondered, Jake, when I was listening to it. I thought, is he going to do a Grateful 2 or Grateful again? I mean, because, you can tell in the music, Jake, that you're having so much fun, and that the artists that are joining you throughout this album are also, I mean, they're playing like they're, you know, on fire with this music. And so it really, I thought, you know, once again, I know, you know, just a new album, but it's like one, you could I mean, this could be like a whole documentary just on Grateful.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It was, yeah, I think that, I don't know, for me, this was like, the title of the track. I
Mhm.
mean, the title of the album, Grateful, is like, for me, it's so fitting because there's a Japanese word, it's okage samade. And the translation of that is I am what I am because of you. And
Mhm.
so many of these musicians on the record, they were so influential, so inspiring. Like, I know I wouldn't be the musician I am today, or maybe even playing music today if it weren't for a lot of these
Wow.
musicians. And the other thought too that crossed my mind was, during the pandemic, we lost so many musicians, I mean, everywhere. And I mean, it was just, and it made me realize, because for me, playing the ukulele, there were two ukulele players that I grew up with that inspired me. And one was Eddie Kamai, who was like the first ukulele virtuoso, and another was a
Right.
man named Otasan, was probably my biggest inspiration for playing the ukulele. So during the pandemic, Eddie Kamai passed away, and Ota-san, he no longer he can no longer play, the ukulele. So it just and it was always my dream to, maybe one day collaborate or do something with them. And so yeah, so that's kind of why I thought, man, this would be, I should take this opportunity, to be able to not just record and track a song with these musicians, but also to have the opportunity to really thank them and
Right.
to express my gratitude, toward their influences and their inspiration and mentorship.
You know, what I think about too, Jake, listening to your album Grateful, to where it reminds me of artists that go back and record blues artists that they were influenced by, you know, whether it be Sun House, you know, all of these great artists, you know, Muddy Waters, to where this is kind of your tribute album, and Grateful, that you are grateful to these influences. And then I know that now people like me, I'm going to go back and find these artists and listen to their body of work because of what you created with this album. And I think, was that part of the goal when you did this?
Oh, it's funny. I wasn't really thinking in that way, because, in my mind, these musicians that are on this record, I mean, they're such legends.
Right.
In fact, like, I tell people that first track, with Henry Capono, he is such a legend in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And I never would have had the courage to ask him to record a song with me, had not been for this one, by coincidence. We happened to be on a same flight going back to Honolulu.
Oh my gosh.
And so I remember seeing him, get on the airplane, and I was like, wow, that's Henry Capono. And so I walked, onto the plane, and as soon as I got on the plane, I looked where my seat was, and he was sitting right next to where I was able to sit. So I remember going up to my seat, and I looked at him, and I said, oh, hey, Uncle Henry, is it okay if I sit there? And he looked at me, and he was like, oh, yeah, is that your seat? So I said, oh yeah, that's my seat. He said, oh, then you better sit there. But you just have so much respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even brother Nolan, who is another legend here in
Right.
Hawaii, he my dad used to take me to his concerts,
Oh my
wherever he was
goodness.
playing, at a hotel in Waikiki or anywhere. And
Right.
I always wanted to sit right in the front row so I could watch his hands and, just listen to him sing. And so my dad used to take me, and I was just this little kid. I was probably the only kid, in this place. And so I shared when I got to record with Brother Nolan, I shared this story with him, and he actually remembered me. He remembered that little boy always coming to watch him play. He would always sit in the front seat, I mean, in the front row, and I would always just be watching his fingers. I was very shy back then,
Yeah.
but yeah, so he realized, he was like, "That was you," you know.
Wow.
So I know it's just it's crazy.
It's
So
like
yeah,
bringing it
so
full circle. That story gave me goosebumps because I mean that he remembers, you as a child sitting front
Mhm.
row and just absorbing the music that he's playing, and then what you've done with it today. I mean, that's a full 180 with that.
Yeah, yeah. It really yeah. So this is, it is a special record, and
Mhm.
I mean, just with everything going on right now, I'm actually on Maui right now, and we did a little we had a little benefit concert last night, and Dina Carter came out to play as
Ah,
well, and it was really just to try to just try to serve and support the Maui community in any
definitely.
way, and but it was with the Maui Food Bank, and then also
Mhm.
with the Hawaii Community Foundation, and it just you just you we take for granted music. We take it for
Mhm.
granted sometimes, but
Right.
the arts and music really has that ability, that power to just bring people together,
Mhm.
and bring a little bit of joy, so and I hate to say that, because there's just so much going on here right now, but
Right.
but
And
my
hopefully some healing with the music as well, and
yeah,
especially in this time, Jake.
yeah, music heals, and that's what all these artists did for me,
Right.
all these years, man. From the time I was a kid, I mean, they healed my soul. They got me through, challenges in my life,
Mhm.
and so it really was. This was a very special one.
Well, on a side note, I have to bring this up, and I have to ask if your dog actually does have fleas. But this is your own coffee with the Acoustic Coffee Company, and
Yeah.
I thought what is incredible about this, Jake, and I have to bring this up to where it supports 3 different charities. And so, and I want you to talk about this to where, when you partnered with them, and I haven't tried your coffee yet because I've been saving it. I already tried Tommy Emmanuel's coffee and it was good. And so I just, I love the whole, my dog has fleas, and with the Kona blend here. How did you get involved with them?
Yeah, Acoustic Coffee Company, they're just such great people, and I met them a couple years ago, when they talked to me about doing a project together, and they're just so passionate about what they do, and they're luthiers, they're also they're so passionate about music, so it just kind of
Mhm.
makes sense, they love coffee, they love making instruments, they
Right.
love music, and so to bring it all together, and it's all for a great cause, so this particular brand of coffee, it's called My Dog Has Fleas, because when I was so ukulele is actually a native Hawaiian word. It's 2 words. Uku means flea, lele means jumping. So when you talk about the ukulele, the direct translation is jumping flea. And it looks in the story I remember hearing was because your fingers look like little jumping fleas on the
Right.
fretboard when you play it. Because it was the Portuguese immigrants who brought their instruments over to Hawaii, which later became the modern day ukulele. But anyway, so that's the reason it's called My Dog Has Fleas, is because when I was a kid growing up, we didn't really know the note names or the pitches of the ukulele,
Mhm.
but we would sing this melody, my dog has fleas. And if you were to pluck each string, da 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 da, if it sounded like that melody, and for some reason this phrase, my dog has fleas, went with it, that's how you knew the instrument was in tune. So if
Wow.
you ask anybody in Hawaii about My Dog Has Fleas, that's an ukulele reference, So yeah, so it was just wonderful to work with them, and it supports, the 3 charities you talk about, the Ukulele Kids Club,
Right.
which supports a lot of, especially a lot of children, in
Mhm.
hospitals, and helping them through, whatever, um, whether it's chemotherapy or whatever they're going through, the ukulele helps to, they bring ukuleles into the hospitals, also guitars in the classroom.
Right.
They're a wonderful organization that provides musical instruments to schools, to support music education. And the third one is the Coral Reef Alliance, which they're just making just incredible strides in combating coral bleaching and just coral, and coral restoration as
Right.
well, which is so important. But and they've been so wonderful, because when all this happened here with Maui, they were so generous and just try to help us to also support the Maui community. So the sales from the coffee also will support the Hawaii Community Foundation, and it's their Maui Strong Fund. And if anybody's watching, and and if you feel like there's something that you want to do, for the Maui community, that's one of the best things you can do right now is go to the Hawaii Community Foundation.org. Go to that website, Hawaii Community Foundation.org, and on that first page, there's a donate now button, and that is what the community is rallying behind, and they've been doing so much, for the people of Maui.
So incredible. And I was going to bring up, and you mentioned it earlier, to where your mom was your first ukulele teacher. Brother played, and so you started playing at 4, and now you have your own signature model with the beautiful ukuleles that you play. And I'm sure that is not the model, Jake, that you probably started on. You probably started maybe, I like the flame with the, the koa and everything. I'm going to bet it maybe was a little lesser model at 4 years old.
Yeah, well, actually, I was very fortunate because this family, the Kamaka family, they were the first family to start manufacturing ukuleles, in Hawaii over 100 years ago. And Uncle Sam Kamaka, who started the company, he learned from the Portuguese immigrants how to build these instruments. And the ukulele, real quick, is actually it's an instrument that's a hybrid of two Portuguese instruments, the rajau and the machete. So the rajau was a larger instrument that had 5 strings, but it had what we call the re-entrant tuning, and then the machete was a small little 4-string instrument, right? So the modern day ukulele, it's the tuning of the rajau, but it's the size and the amount of strings as the machete. So that's what the modern day ukulele is. So this is the Kamaka ukulele. And I was very, very fortunate because when my mom was a teenager, she had a Kamaka. And so when I was first learning at the age of 4, her Kamaka ukulele was my first ukulele. So it's like,
gosh.
It's like your first car being a Cadillac or
right. They're just handing you a Ferrari, going, "Here, Jake, play."
Yeah, exactly. So it was. So I was very fortunate, and that's one of the things I like to tell people sometimes is that in the beginning, if you're learning an instrument, if you have the opportunity or if you have access to a good quality instrument, that could really inspire a child to want to play it because they have that respect for it, and that and I don't know, there's something about playing and because a lot of times when people think of ukuleles, they think of those those $5 ones that they sometimes really play. Well, you can't even tune them, but if you have a decent instrument, there's a lot that you can do with it. So yeah, so I'm so grateful, to the Kamaka family because they've always been so supportive, and their instruments are absolutely beautiful. And I don't know if you can see this, but a company called ProWorks that they work with, they actually somehow got my entire name across the fretboard.
That is incredible.
Yeah, they had done one for a Joan Baez guitar.
Right.
And I remember seeing that, it was right on the 12th fret, and her name her signature was right across.
Wow.
And so I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. They're like, do you want us to do that, with your name? I was like, my name's way too long. You're not gonna fit it. They're like, well, we'll try. Let's see what we can do. And I mean, and that's all Pearl. It's
That's
all Pearl
amazing.
by
Just
that company,
beautiful, Jake.
Pearl. Yeah, Pearlworks. It's. I mean, it's really they're such incredible artists. I don't know how they pulled that off, but it's
Well, and
amazing.
also I think it fits you because your playing style. I mean, I remember when you first came on the scene, and back in 2006, and it went viral. With what you did with, I believe it was "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," uh,
Yeah.
and that right then that kind of put you on the map. But you didn't settle for that. You didn't rest on those laurels. You just continue to elevate it as you have now. And so, does that seem like forever ago, back when that video came out?
Yeah, that was such a happy accident, because I was in New York. I was in New York performing a show, and it was my first time to New York City, and so this I was supposed to do this television interview, and they wanted to shoot it in Central Park. So I was thinking, okay, great, So I went to Central Park. Now, growing up in Hawaii, we have parks, but usually if you're meeting someone at the park, as soon as you get to the park, you'll see where they are, right? I had no idea that Central Park was so massive,
Mhm.
and but anyways, it was just such an incredible experience. But we found this little spot, next to Strawberry Fields, and they had asked me to play a song. They had, we did a little interview, and I played. At the time, I was working on George Harrison's "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," and George Harrison also lived on Maui, for a lot of his life, and he
Right.
loved the ukulele. The
Yes.
ukulele was such a big part of who he was, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to do a George Harrison song. So I played it for the TV show, and it aired on TV. And then I went back home to Hawaii, and then a couple months later, some friends of mine that were living, in the continental U.S. Would started calling me, and they were like, "There's this video of you that's kind of circulating the internet." I said, "What are you talking about?" So, because at that time, this was 2005, 2006,
Mhm.
YouTube was just starting out, right?
Right.
So I didn't know what YouTube was yet. And so they said, "Yeah, let me just, I'm gonna email you this thing, and you just click on it," because that was like a video link, but that was all new, right? New
Right.
technology. So I was like, okay, so they sent me this email, and I click on this link, and then and this video just pops up, and it's of that performance. And so I was like, how did this get on the internet? It was so confusing, but I looked on the bottom, and it had the views. Already it had like over 10 million views,
Oh my goodness.
and I just couldn't believe it. It
Mhm.
was just so I just kind of was like, well, kid, I don't know what this is, but that's cool. But right after that, I mean, my manager started getting calls and from music festivals, from other managers, from other artists, that
Mhm.
wanted me to come and be their opening act or tour with them or come and play at their festival all over the world. It was
Mhm.
just crazy. So one of the first bands that I got to go out on the road with was Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, you know? And
How
then
incredible is
uh,
that?
I know, and then after that, Jimmy Buffett and the Coral Reefers, it was just insane, and so I'm so grateful. And yeah, like you said, man, I don't take anything for granted. I just love music. I love this instrument. It's always been my passion, and I just want to keep exploring and keep, growing with it.
Well, I've got to ask you, Jake, for my final question on this. Do you think you're going to be rolling out some music videos and everything to accompany, some of the singles? And I got to tell you, even with 22 tracks, I don't know which ones you're going to pick to do music videos on because I think they're all incredible. I
Uh,
mean, it's just, I mean, that would be impossible for me to say, Jake, this is the one you need to do the music video on. I mean, what are the plans for that?
yeah, man, yeah, we didn't do any proper music videos except for one. There's one, and the video hasn't come out yet, but there's a track on there called "The Eyes of the EV" where I did a collaboration, and it was a collaboration with an abstract painter and a videographer.
Ah,
And what we did was, it's a song that captures all the different, nuances of Hawaii Island, which is the biggest island. a lot of people know it as the Big Island, right? We call it the Big Island.
Right.
But yeah, so Hawaii Island, I mean, you have everything from volcanoes to the rainforest. We even have snow on the top of Mauna Kea. I mean, there's every type of climate out there, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and stunning. So we did a whole tour of the island, just to get the inspiration for the song. And Christy Fujiyama Cosmides, who's an abstract painter based in Hilo, she got her inspiration, by being in all these different places together, and so she painted this 5-panel installation that's now in the Hilo airport, and I got to write this piece, and then Trace Niimi captured it all on video and just captured all these beautiful spots and got this incredible footage. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So, we can't wait for people to see it. But as far as, collaborations with the other artists, yeah, I would definitely love to do more of that, and make some kind of visual, out of all these tracks. That would be absolutely beautiful.
I think so many of the songs will lend themselves to that. And Jake, I want to make sure for our viewers, your website for your tour, for everything that's coming out, obviously has to be vinyl for this album, but a lot of people still listen through digital with their playlists and everything, and the music video. Where should they go for everything, Jake Shimabukuro?
Yeah, so if it'll be on all the digital platforms, but if you're like me, where you like something tangible, you can go to, of course, our website, jakeshimabukuro.com, and you can get the album there, and or even the coffee there. But you can also, I'm so glad you mentioned vinyl, Eric, because we are working on the vinyl release that's going to come out a little bit later. Right. But it's going to be, it's actually a three record set, because there's so many tracks, like you said.
Right.
And I love vinyl. I think vinyl's coming back, and that's, for me, in my opinion, I think that's one of the best ways to listen to music. It's just so intentional, and there's just something about the way it sounds.
Yes.
It's just,
and I think the depth of the music, with this album deserves it. And by the way, I was going to bring up to where, while you're listening to the Grateful album, now you know how to tune your ukulele. My Dog Has Fleas, and you can drink coffee while you're doing it. This is like a win-win-win, Jake. There's no losing here.
Oh, no, thank you.
Well, it's great having you on the show. Congratulations on Grateful. Once again, just so many incredible songs. I think viewers are going to want to listen to all 22 tracks and come see you live, because you put on just wow. I mean, you're all over the stage, you're working it, you jump around. You're so joyful in the creation of the music, and I think it's a great work that you have created with Grateful. So thanks for coming on the show, Jake.
Thank you, Eric. Really appreciate your support, and thank you for the wonderful interview. Thank you.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.